Hi there. As you can see, I've got Sall Grover with me. How exciting. Sall's actually going to come over to New Zealand soon and do a bit of a speaking tour around New Zealand about her tickle v Giggle case, which is just about the best sounding lawsuit, I think, in the world. And one day you might be able to sell that name on eBay to sell. Yeah, so anyway, Sall made an app for women called Giggle. Oh, and hang on, we'll talk about Giggle in a minute. And along came a bloke in a dress, and wanted to get on, and Sall said no. Well, and removed him, like she'd probably removed about, I don't know, hundreds of others of these blokes who tried to get on. Anyway, he got the pip in a big way, and he decided he was going to take her to court. So that's just happened, hasn't it, Sall, that court case?
It has. So we had a hearing for it in April of this year, and now we are waiting for the verdict. So it's been the Tickle v Giggle saga has been the last 2.5 years of my life.
2.5 years. Oh my goodness, yeah.
Because how it started is he did an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint, and then because I refused conciliation, and we can go into that later, he then had the option to file in federal court, and you have 60 days to do it. He did it on the 60th day. We were getting ready to respond and sort of get things moving. And I think we had 28 days to do that. And he actually withdrew in that time before we could even respond. And so we were like, oh, well, chalk it up as a win. We stood our ground. The law is still muddled, but, we'll just keep powering ahead. And then 6 months later, he refiled on that same claim. But because he only had 60 days to take it to federal court, he now actually had to get permission for it to go ahead. And so then we had to wait 4 months for the hearing of that, and then it was 2 months into the verdict of that, where the judge said, yes, it can go ahead because it's in the public interest, which I think he's right about. And then wait a year for the hearing. So if it hadn't had that withdraw and then refile part of it, we would be at my court stage right now. We'd be so much further along. So it's dragged out the longest it possibly could drag out.
Why do you think he withdrew it just in the beginning?
Well, I only know what sort of has been said, which I think he said that he did it because he was worried about money, because I had said that we would go all the way to the High Court if necessary. But I don't know if that makes that much sense to me, because I had actually been saying that when it was in the AHRC days, before it was even filed in federal court. But anyway, it is what it is. And yeah, he did it. So I've never spoken to this person, so I don't have
that's a bonus. Would you want to?
I'm not complaining, definitely. I've never spoken to him, so I don't know his reasons for anything. Nothing. One of the claims in Giggle, one of the things that we're waiting on a verdict for, is basically he's going after damages, both just damages and aggravated damages, on the grounds basically that I've harassed him. And
really? Okay, that's novel.
Is because I call him a man in interviews, which, as my legal team says, I have protected political speech. I'm allowed to state things as I see them. I'm allowed to state the court case of what it is. And literally the court case is all of my actions are on the basis that he is a man. So of course I should be able to say that. And I would never, ever need to speak about this person if he had not filed a court case against me. I don't know him.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting here waiting to find out if you have to pay damages to someone that you don't know, that you would more than happy never speak about ever again.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm also I wish him well. If putting on a dress and calling yourself a woman is what gets you out of bed every morning, it doesn't really have anything to do with me. It's only, and I think most women are fighting for this, it's only if we're being forced to believe it.
Exactly.
We all tell each other ourselves stuff to live our best life, get out of bed in the morning. You know what I mean? I know there's been times in my life when especially in Hollywood, when I was really just down and out. And I would just have to be like, you know, you're talented, you're smart, you can get it. I was lying to myself every morning. I didn't feel any of those things about myself, but it was
To
whatever
get you out of bed.
out of bed and sort of keep going. So like, I don't begrudge anyone sort of finding a way to do that in their life. It's just, it's the Dave Chappelle thing. How much do I have to play a role in your version of yourself?
Yeah. And why does he get to impose it on other people? I mean, that's the biggie, isn't it?
Because gender ideology does not work unless there is an audience.
Yeah.
And by himself wearing a dress is just a man by himself wearing a dress. The only, like, it's why also, I've thought so much about this, like, why didn't they just create laws like, you know, in just a general anti-discrimination legislation, put something in there about gender identity? I mean, I don't personally agree that it needs to even be in law at all, because I don't think the state should be involved in your own personal identity about yourself. So I don't think legal issue, but let's just, for sake of argument, play it out of it being in, if it was, or if there was like some gender identity act or something, which would be just crazy, but it wouldn't serve any purpose, because then you just have legislation that somebody can just believe whatever they want about themselves, which that's just covered under, you know, freedom of belief. That's national law. It's implied in all of our laws in Western democracies. So that's just not something. The only way that gender identity even means something is if it's put into laws that are then into legislation that forces other people to go along with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's meaningless.
Otherwise, no one's going to go along with it. Well, I mean, some people will, but I mean, otherwise, most people won't go along with it.
I responded to something on Twitter last night and started a little bit of a debate, and I'm going to stand by this. I said that if there was no fear of career loss or social ostracism, 99.9% of women, and maybe I'll make it 99%, or do a full percent for the other part. 99% of women would speak out against this. I think that fear is doing a lot of heavy lifting. For the other 1%, of which there's quite a few women in there, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
They all have a line that eventually can't be crossed. Every woman has one.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You would really hope so.
A lot of the women, like, especially, I mean, I'm blocked by most like Australian feminists, like the media.
Oh, well done. You must be doing something right.
I've never even spoken to them. Like, this was when I was like sort of first speaking out in like 2020. It was by like 2021, 2022, when I was getting sort of any kind of action. And I looked, and when someone would like say a name, and I'd be like, I don't even know who that is, because I'd been in America for so long. So the rise of someone I really missed out on. So I didn't know them. And they'd be like, oh, you know, that's sort of like a journalist who writes for The Guardian. She's a feminist. And I'd be like, oh, she's blocked me. I've never spoken to her. And I mean, like, look, don't get me wrong, I block all the time. I block everybody. If I don't want to speak to them, I block trans activists like it's going out of style. But sometimes, like, did you block me just so I couldn't annoy you, or because, you know, you can't argue against what I'm saying and you don't want to be highlighted? Probably a little bit of both. Yeah.
You know, and I'm just going to say this. Oh my goodness me, your tweets are sublime. I'm so jealous about them. You're such a wordsmith. You know, like I'm a writer, but I'm not a creative writer. And I think, and I read your tweets, and I think, oh well, that's so well said and everything. So, for anyone else who wants to read them who's not already following you, I'll put your Twitter handle in the description below, because oh my goodness, they are, yeah. Sometimes I look at them and I think, oh.
You know what I think it is because I think it says on my Twitter, I think I joined Twitter in 2011. I didn't tweet, but I read Twitter. Like, that's how I would get a lot of news. I've been a reader of Twitter, many, what's the math? I don't know, 13 years. And I really, really liked those Twitter comedians, you know, those sort of, those accounts that in the sort of mid 2010s that emerged, and they were really great on social commentary and things like that. I just really liked them. So I don't know if whether the style of it was just sort of like I'd learned like the beats of how to construct it and do it. And then Yeah, because I find it really easy to do, because when I was in Hollywood, my manager at one point had said to me, oh, you should start getting a Twitter following. And I was like, but I'm writing screenplays and they are like 110-page documents. I don't want 200.
I can't put 130 characters, say what I wanted, 130 characters or whatever it is.
These are two really different mediums. It's like, I can't do that one. So I didn't tweet. I was like, I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like, oh, my computer again today, trying to write a rom-com, bang my head against a wall. Like there was, in hindsight, maybe I should have just started tweeting about the Me Too stuff before it even happened.
Oh yeah, you would have got a march on that. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little while. Yeah. In a minute.
I enjoy it. I enjoy tweeting, like, and it can be fun, but at the same time, I am very much looking forward to the day when like this stuff's finished and I'll just like, I won't tweet anymore. I'm excited. Because I don't know, there's no other issue that I'm going to sort of move on to in this out sort of thing. I know there's lots of different issues for women, but not for this. Like,
it's hard to imagine anything this intense again, isn't it? But then I don't want to speak too soon. But but certainly what's happened in the last few years is not something I saw coming or ever saw coming.
I think part why we sort of do fight back against gender ideology on places like Twitter is because it is like social media is the social contagion element of it. Using that sort of, I suppose, in our favor as much as we can, which I don't know about, but since Elon has taken over Twitter, I've noticed a huge shift. Like you can just speak freely, like you can say trans women are men and you're not get
you notice that a lot of trans are saying they've gone to blue sky now because so turfs there, and I think to myself, oh, I reckon they'll be back soon because it'll be too boring for them.
Yeah, I think so, that they enjoy, they like the attention.
I mean, as you say, there's no point in being like trans and being like out there if no one's taking any notice or something, or doing what they do, that nastiness and everything like that, or forcing themselves into women's spaces and whatever, if no one's taking any notice.
I think, like, in terms of just I don't think that there is a concept of trans. I think the whole thing is made up, but just that cross-dressing is trans, which effectively is what it is. But let's just think that it's just something that is in any way real. Like a man can wear a dress if that's what he wants. But if this was just a thing about like men being able to wear that in public, while we all know a little bit too much about autogynephilia at this point, at the same time, like, you can't legislate against what people wear. Like, that would be disastrous anyway, because how quickly would they use that against women? And we'd all be in burqas very, very quickly, I think, if there was any sort of restriction of law. Yeah,
good point. Yeah.
Really something like that. But so it would be covered in head to toe. We were wearing bed sheets everywhere. But so I'm like, even though I know a lot about autogynephilia, I'm still like, if a man wants to wear women's clothes out in public, like we do live in a free society, and he should be able to do that if he wants. And I'm all for it, in that people can express themselves how they want. That's not really hurting anybody else. It's only when we're being told that that's a woman that then there's the conflict. And so if it was just, if they were saying like trans rights are that we should be able to express ourselves how we want, which I'd be like, okay, tick, knock yourself out. I want to make sure we have the best healthcare. I'd be like, I will happily help you campaign for the best healthcare. You might not like the answer is, but
it's very generous of you, Sall.
Well, it's just like, I don't want there to be any more young women going.
I tend to think of the man sort of side of it. More than the woman, but you're right. Yeah.
It is more women who are getting vasectomies and things like that. And the men keep their downstairs area. They just might add boobs to it, which but like, if it was just like we were going, they want genuinely the best healthcare, which would include like talk therapy. It'd be like, okay, cool, let's get you the best healthcare. Like that, you'd be like, well, that's really reasonable, but that's not what they are fighting for. They are fighting pretty much exclusively to be able to have access to female spaces.
Yeah. And talking about, you know, the men wearing dresses and stuff like that, if that's what they want to do. I mean, we've all seen, you know, in the past, men wearing those dresses and that, and you just kind of look at them and sort of think, oh yeah, okay, you know, that's what you do. But in reality, if it wasn't, in reality, men's clothing is on the whole more comfortable than women's clothing. You know, so men, the only reason men would want to wear women's clothing, as you say, is like in the past you got those ones with the, what do you call it, disorder, oh, they used to call it just some sort of dysphoria or something like this, you know, body dysmorphia. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you get those, and they'd put on a dress, and now it's like they're putting on a dress because they know that it's forcing you to sort of kind of, well, trying to force you to accept them as women, you know.
Yeah. Back, like, if I like 10 years ago, I probably, if someone had just said, oh, there's this big movement for men to be able to wear dresses and makeup if they want, I would have gone, well, yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Okay. Like,
yeah. Most of you won't want to, but do it.
You might see a guy wearing a dress and makeup and be like, I think you look ridiculous. Like, I'm not saying we all have to celebrate it. It's just like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Now, or when I see a man wearing a dress in public, yeah, I mean, I cross the street.
Yeah, because we know what's behind it all now. It's not just sort of, oh yeah, that guy's just going about his business in a dress, you know, anymore, something like that.
And I'll clarify, I don't just cross the street because I'm not saying that this person is a predator. I am doing that because I do not want to participate in this fetish.
Yeah. And so going back a bit to Hollywood, because you've said in the past that the Me Too movement that came out of Hollywood was absolutely everything about it was true, pretty much, you know, because there's been a bit of a kickback about that, you know, and with some people saying that, oh, it got exaggerated and all that sort of thing. And
they were definitely, like, I remember even at the time, like, there were some things where they were trying to elevate it to the same thing, where it would be like, where I'd be like, I can see the guy, like, I don't know, it was, what was it, oh God, Aziz Ansari, the comedian. He's a comedian in America, and basically during the Me Too time, it had happened that basically he'd gone on a date with a woman. After dinner and drinks, whatever, he'd invited her back to his place. She said yes. They were making out. And then, you know, he sort of tried to take it further, and she went, no, I don't want to. He went, okay. And she left. And then she wrote that, like, that's how we know what happened. She wrote this article, but she was like Me Tooing him. And that was like a moment. And I remember going like, oh gosh, he didn't do anything. I don't think he did anything wrong there. Like, not like, you know, forcing somebody to perform sexual acts for a job. You know what I mean? Like, definitely different degrees. And if you are in a situation where you say no to a man and he goes, oh, okay, of course, please, and then you can leave, like, that is great. Like, that's what we want. So no, I mean, we're not in touch anymore, but my very, very good friend from when I first moved to LA to sort of around when I started speaking out on this was Harvey Weinstein's assistant for a long time. She was one of his longest serving female assistants. So
okay.
Yeah. So
that was that for 6 months, was it?
No, she years. So
she lasted a long time. Yeah.
I mean, I'd hear about it. Like, we knew always, and like the whole industry knew he was horrible. But not the raping part. Like, and I talked to her about that after, she was like, she didn't know that, or what end of, like, that part she didn't know. She knew he was horrible, but not that he was the most horrible that you could be.
Isn't that interesting? Because it's almost like the wives who say, oh, they didn't know that their husband was having sex with the daughter or something like that. You think, have such a close relationship with somebody and you still don't know something.
Because it only works that way. Like, one of the things with the Me Too movement when it came out that I was like, became really relevant to me was that all of us women, we didn't talk to each other about it. because how you're made to feel in that moment, in that environment, is it's your fault. And so it's embarrassing to admit. Like for me, I was like always humiliated whenever a man did something. So I was like, what did I do wrong to create a situation where a man thought he could do that in his own office to me when I was just there for a professional reason? And so you would be like, am I just like, whether it's like, I had a few, like at the very beginning when I did say, oh, this has just happened and I'm absolutely mortified by this. And it was like, well, do you want your movie made? And well, yeah, he wants a script from you. And so you start to go like, what's wrong with me that I can't just get on with this? Like, I can't just accept that this is how it is, or, you know, because there was a lot of like, oh, this is Hollywood, baby, like grow up.
So you would kind of you were expected to accept it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just had this thing. And I just remember it was a thing that I like just held on to so tightly in my mind, was I was just like, I know the difference between right and wrong, and I just don't think this is right.
Yeah.
And I was always like, this was even beyond like the Me Too type stuff, like sexual harassment and assault, just in general of how Hollywood people were, like all of like the execs type thing. I was like, you guys aware that there's like a whole other world beyond like West Hollywood and Beverly Hills? Like I just thought they were so obsessed with this one part of the world. And I was always just like a bit like, yeah, we're just supposed to write movies. They're fun to entertain people with real jobs.
So you were employed by one of the studios, or you're freelance?
No, so how it works, because for film writers, and I was film, is that you basically, until you get like a studio deal, which I never got one, but you basically write scripts on spec. So you write a script for free, your agents and managers send it out to all of the different studios, producers, sometimes like directors, just executives who deal in that genre. They think would like it. And then either, without even meeting you, some of them will be like, yep, we really like this. We're going to take this to this studio who we've got to deal with, see if they'll buy it. So you have, you can have like, you know, you could have like 6 different production companies taking your script to 6 different studios to see who can get the deal done. And hopefully either someone does, or as happens sometimes, in the end, no one does. And you sit there going like, oh my God, this is painful. But then what happens after that, regardless of whether they've sold it or not, they all then bring you in for what's called a general meeting. And that's when you've got to go in and do, like, I used to call it the Salls show. So you've got to sell yourself as to why you should write they should pay you or get money for you to write their next movie, either that's based on a premise that you have or one that they have. So you've got to tell them stories to sort of create this brand, basically. And what I was trying to create, which my management team definitely did not understand, because they were like, you write about sex. And I was like, I wrote one movie, one romantic comedy about that. One. And that
got stuck with you. You got stuck with it. Yeah.
Tried to pigeonhole you in that. My brand that I was trying to build was these really strong, but like complicated and flawed women who I would use the structure of a romantic comedy basically for them to realize they didn't need a guy. That's how I wanted to just turn the rom-com genre on its head and be like, she has this entire journey to fall in love with herself, for lack of a better phrase. But that's essentially the formula I used for my movies, and none of them got made because
oh, that's a surprise.
I mean, there was a few that I sold, and there was one, it was like some that had directors attached and blah blah blah, and you do all the work and they still fall apart. Like, it's just if a movie actually getting made is a miracle. But like, I mean, there was one particular script, and I loved this script that I wrote. It was like it was Groundhog Day meets the breakup. So it was a girl who's stuck in the day she gets dumped, and so it keeps this day keeps repeating on her. So it was, the whole movie was her having to learn that she didn't need this guy, and that she could. So it was literally just basically the opposite of Groundhog Day, where he uses it to realize that he needs this woman. This one was that she realized eventually uses it to realize that she doesn't need him. And there was a director that was going to come on to it, and it probably would have gotten, well, potentially would have gotten made, but he wanted it that they ended up back together at the end. And I was like, I can't do it, because I would be so angry if I was in the audience of that movie. I'd be like, I paid for a ticket, I paid for parking, like I would want a refund, because I'd be like, you spent hours of my time for her to basically end up where she started. And so I don't know, I'm very stubborn.
Well, I think that's been demonstrated. Yeah.
And I know I'm right. And it's like, if I don't know that I'm right about something, like I don't really form an opinion on it, I just like leave it. But when I'm like really sure I'm right, you can't move me.
So how long were you in Hollywood?
I got there in August 2009, and then I went from LA to New York in 2017, and then I was home in Australia in August 2018, so 9 years. And 9 years. And when I came back here, I came back for a holiday, like I wasn't moving back, but then it was so obvious that I was like a complete shell of a human being. I was just because of Hollywood, or basically, yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
Just how you had to live there.
Yeah, I mean, like I often say, like, if I could redo it over, I probably actually would have gone to New York. Just because there was just more different stuff happening there. It wasn't so concentrated of just a really toxic, horrible environment. There's so much I didn't know. I was 24 when I moved there. There's a lot I don't regret, but there's just things I would do differently. And because, it was so stressful, because I was there on an O1 visa as a screenwriter. So I could only make money selling screenplays. And so when your entire livelihood is attached to this thing that puts you in a room with these predatory men, I got to the point I couldn't write. Like I would have all the great ideas in my head, but I would sit at my computer and it would be so jumbled, and I couldn't articulate it. And when I was in therapy that she explained it was just like a survival mechanism. My brain was just going, don't write, and then that won't happen. And
if you don't write, then you have to make a change of some sort.
Yeah.
It'd be forced on you. Yeah. So what kind of percentage of men were like, would you say were like quite predatory in Hollywood? The ones in the positions of
I don't know.
Would say power or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, because I went on so many meetings, but there are 7 specific situations that I had, and like 7 might not sound like much, but they were 7, like they were a lot. Like they were horrific at the time, and like what they did.
Well, actually, 7 is a lot, because what I understand is that I don't like using the word victim, but when something happens to you, you don't forget it. The person who does it to you forgets it 5 minutes later. So but you always remember it. You may not sort of let it destroy you or anything like that, but you always remember it.
And that was very much my attitude. I was like, okay, like I will not let this destroy me. I won't let it get to me. Like I'll just keep going. But it was like my subconscious wasn't doing that. Like it was really affecting me, and I didn't want to acknowledge it, because it was what I wanted to do. I didn't want to give up this dream that I had.
Yeah.
And stayed a lot longer than I probably should have in that respect. And then when I came back and I was to Australia, and I was in therapy, and I remember at one point I was like sort of angry, because I realized that I was never going to do it again. I was going to go back. I was never going to write again. Like I just, I hated it. But I was so angry, because I was like, that's what I wanted. It's not just what I wanted to do, but I just had all of these like things. I wanted to create these like great worlds for women to escape into.
Yeah.
I don't have like the most like arty-farty taste in like cinema or anything. I'm like, I love Nancy Meyers movies. I love escapism. I love to sit there and be like, gosh, I love that kitchen. Like that is what I enjoy. And that's the sort of stuff in a way that I wanted to create in my own little way, like this sort of escapism for certain type of woman. And
I love that kitchen. I think that's the first time I've heard I want to say.
I love Nancy Myers.
It's like, I love that kitchen, yeah. So, but
So
then mind you, I mean, I suppose that some people are much more visual. I think I'm not a terribly visual person. And I think some people are. And as soon as they're looking at something, they're noticing all the details,
yeah,
everything.
yeah, and I love the look of a Nancy Myers movies. They're fun. It's total escapism. And actually, whenever I would say to like men in meetings that I would like when they'd ask like, whose career do you admire? And they often would ask that. And I'd say Nancy Myers and Nora Ephron, and they'd always go, oh, she's an absolute bitch. Like, oh, shut up. Like, what is Tarantino lovely all the time? Like, is Harvey Weinstein a prince amongst men? No, like, why do you have to say this? It's like, she's probably not a bitch. She's probably just a woman who knows what she wants and worked really, really hard to get it and doesn't put up with your shit. That's it. But they would all like, it was just, it used to grate on me all the time. But so when I came back and it was evident to me that I wouldn't be doing it anymore, I was really angry for a while because I felt like there was just a lot that was sort of stolen from what I wanted to do.
I was just going to use that word stolen. Yeah.
In my life. And then at the same time, like in therapy, when my therapist said to me, you needed need at the time, a strong female support network in your life. It was the light bulb moment. And so much anger went away because that's when I relayed that to my mom, and she then was like putting pieces together and stuff and went, why don't we create an app? That like I did, the anger went away and I was like, okay, instead of wanting to create these like fictional worlds that women can escape from movies, let's just create something real that they can escape into.
Yeah.
And so much better to me. So I remember when we were developing it and I would say to my dad all the time, like, I feel like I've like this, my whole life has been leading up to this. And then that's been extended to now when with the trans activists and everything of them trying to destroy it. I'm like, okay, so Hollywood was the rehearsal for these next group of men that would try and destroy something. And I'm like, no, not this time. No, I can win this one. Because you're not women. I can win this one.
So you called the app Giggle. And the word giggle, there's an old-fashioned meaning for that, isn't there, or something?
So when we were we were floating around different names, and because of at the time when the new one launches, it actually won't be like this specifically, but what we were developing basically was something like a swipe and match thing where you could create sort of groups up to 6, and then you could create like basically private messages of up to 6 women, and it was sort of really new, and it was, whether rightly or wrongly, that's sort of one of the ideas that we had with it. And so I got on this like like, like I do like words that have double meanings, and like, like the collective nouns for things like, that's like a murder of crows.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Or things like that. And I typed in to Google like what's a collective noun for women, and it was gaggle or bevy. So bevy of women or a gaggle of women. And I was like, gaggle, but I was like, gag. I'm like, we can't do that. And then I was like, also gaggle was also the collective noun for geese and gay men. So it wasn't even just and then I just was like, it was scrolling down, I was like, oh, like similar things. And it was like, girls was giggle. And I started this eye roll, and then I went, I was like, something just stays with you. And I like, don't get me wrong, there was many rad femme who really didn't like it when I first sort of emerged, but I'm like, just stay with me here. Because my thing was I was like, I was going from the, there was Tinder and Bumble and Grindr and all of these different, and her obviously had taken the best name for a woman only app, and it's not even,
it's not even for women anymore.
Exactly. Like I wish
I knew woman. Yeah.
I wish they'd give that name up. But so they'd already done that, and I just was like, when and you'd go to lunch with the girls, or you'd you have girls' night or something like that. And it was like informal and fun, and just like it wasn't serious. And I was like, I was like, I didn't want to make it like this big, heavy, serious thing or anything. So I just, and then it was like, gig was techie. And then I was like, when Steve Jobs had created Apple, one of the reasons that he stumbled across that name and landed on that was because of where it fell in the alphabet of like with a competitor. And so it would be like just above it or something. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, it'd be just above Google.
Oh, yes.
I was just not that we were competitive with Google or anything, but I was just like, Google's not a serious name. So I was just immediately just took Giggle as like a word on its own. It really became just a word on its own. And we sat with it for a bit, and I was like, there was a few other names I think that we floated. I can't remember what they are, but all the time I was like, there's no reaction with them. They just didn't. Giggle just felt fun to me, and so
yeah, you're right. When people hear that name, as you say, there's a reaction. There would be a reaction.
And so, and so like I know that it's not supposed to be a serious.
Yeah.
It's because I don't think, like, for example, I don't think that like the oppression of women or misogyny comes from like, say, like the color pink. Like I think of like the color pink as like red for go, no, green for go, red for stop, or like, it just colors mean different things. It's like the shorthand of something. Like if I see something that's pink, I just immediately like, when they do like breast cancer things and they're always, it's for women. And when they do things that are blue, it's for men. It's just a like marketing shorthand.
Is it called like in your mind called heuristics or something?
So, yeah.
We're always doing this, creating shortcuts to save us the energy and time of actually going through this lengthy process of getting to a place or whatever.
Oh my God, I'm defending the color pink right now, and the new platform actually does not have the color pink on it. So because I'm actually not someone who likes the color pink, but I remember we went through like, do we do orange? Do we do purple? Like what color do we make it? And I was like, well, Twitter and Facebook and all of those, they are blue. Let's just go with pink. It's just the shorthand. Like, why else would we, like, why wouldn't you do that? So yeah, it just, for me, when I'm making a decision, even if I think, oh, people might have a reaction to this, I don't mind if I can make the decision if I can justify it. If I'm like, no, I really do believe this is the right thing to do here, I can explain why I've made this choice, then I'm happy with it. And that's probably a leftover thing from screenwriting as well, that you've got to make these creative choices all the time. And again, like if I don't really believe in it, I'm like, oh yeah, you're probably right. So I make sure that I can really defend why I've chosen to do something. And I felt that I could. I felt like, I remember when, Giggle first came onto the scene and it was under attack from TRAs. And then there were some feminists going, like, why Giggle, why Giggle? And I'm like, why Bumble, why Google? Like these aren't serious words for tech companies.
Yeah.
Not. So I was like, let's look at what it is, just not that part of it. And so when we're going to relaunch it soon, and we had talks for a while of whether we would change the name, but I was like, maybe eventually, but not right now. Like we can always change. Again, is X a better name? Like I think Twitter is a better name. And
I know.
it's just a silly made up word, but it's better than X. We did joke XX, but yeah.
And so then along came this guy. So you come from Hollywood back to Australia, because you need obviously you're shattered. And then next thing you know, along comes this guy. You just go from Hollywood to Australia. You think you're escaping, all these excuse me, all these predatory males in this awful situation. And then you come to Australia, and then there's this whole new awful situation, that you encounter.
Fire in a way, but at the same time, like, God, which one's worse? I don't know, actually. They've both been really bad. They're probably just equally as bad because.
But at least in like I'm not going to defend it or anything, but like, like the guys in Hollywood and that, I mean, you know who they are.
Vulnerable though, because I was there on a visa, as I said, like my whole livelihood was attached to it. It was hard. I'll say what the biggest difference in my life with it is that I was in Hollywood, I was by myself, so I was alone, so vulnerable. Here, going through all of this, I've got my mum and dad. We sort of feel like we're all in this together,
right?
So the support network that I have is so strong that feels like you can, on a day-to-day basis, you can cope with it more. Not to say I haven't had massive breakdowns in the last like 4.5 years. I mean,
yeah.
but at the same time, like, you know, sometimes you've got to have the breakdown to just like vent it out. And then like the next day you're like, okay, I'm back. I can keep doing this.
I think so too. Yes, yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like letting it out or something. Or as you're saying that, you know, like when you were in Hollywood and you couldn't write anymore, and it's a bit like almost like your subconscious telling you that you've got to change something. So it's stopping you from writing because it's going to force that change.
Yeah.
You know, if you do that.
There's nothing, I don't have that underlying thing. Like, I know we are all right on this issue. They're not women. We are 100% right. And so, and it's so rare in life that you get to be 100% right about something. But I'm not right. So
absolutely. There's no doubt. There's no question.
Yeah, I don't find it that intimidating a fight to have, to be honest, even though like the tactics they use can be really intimidating. And so they do, but at the same time, it's just their premise is such bullshit that once you get into it with them, like we can win every single debate that we have because we just have to state facts. That's it.
If we get any airtime, of course, well, you know.
We're getting there. It's getting, like, if I think to February 2020, which is when I was, you know, alerted to what was all this stuff that was happening, then until now, we've made huge inroads. We're not there yet, and we're still pushing it all up a hill.
Yeah, I wonder about the inroads. I know we've gathered huge amounts of information, which we didn't have before, because, you know, I mean, we're caught right on the back foot about this all. But now, of course, we've got, you know, huge amounts of information and gathered sort of evidence and data and stuff like that, which will blow them out of the water. Any arguments they have blown them out of the water. But of course, we're not actually given any chance to do that or any airtime, or certainly not. I mean, in Australia, you've got Sky News, which is a great
place to do it.
Court, yeah.
That is, yeah. Court is one place where you're like, gosh, it's so strange that the no debate people take you to the place where debate is where it is. And not to say that it's an easy battle, because how one debates these issues, like just in general society, is different to how you do it in a courtroom, because in court you have to relate everything to laws, which just, I mean, I don't know how barristers do it. I'd go insane. But even then, eventually with court, we will eventually win there as well, because like I say all the time, if the court is, if it's working properly, a place of truth and evidence, and there is just no truth or evidence in women, there just is not.
Well, I saw some of the live tweeting, I think, or was it afterwards? I can't remember, of you being cross-examined in court, and his lawyer was trying to get you to say that he's a woman, and was asking questions, or would you agree such and such, if such and such, then such and such, then he's a woman, and your answer would be no. And then they'd try something else. Well, what about da 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 da? You'd be like, no, this is what I was reading on in the on the live tweeting or something like that. Yeah.
For me, I was just like, under oath is not the place where you're going to get me to indulge the lie.
So who's supporting this dude? You know, like, obviously, I mean, where's the money coming from?
Well, his legal team is pro bono, and then he got a $50,000 grant from the Grata Fund, which just goes to costs of something. I don't know how it all works, but anyway, that's what he got. And yeah, and then the AHRC, because they intervened, and so they're really doing a lot of the work there, in the sense that they're just there to interpret the law, and they intervened and interpreted the law in his favor. Which we knew they were going to do, because the Australian Human Rights Commission lobbied for the 2013 amendments.
This is the one that Julia Gillard, when she put gender into law or something like that.
So it was under her government. I mean, I don't know how much she played a role in it, but I will say this, like, you're the prime minister of the country, you're responsible for it. Like, that's the nature of the job. So, but it was very much Mark Dreyfus, who was the Attorney General then, and he's the Attorney General now. He played a role in it. And the AHRC, it was just, it was activist driven of getting these amendments in. They did it in stealth. They got gender identity into the Sex Discrimination Act and removed the definitions of man and woman 3 years before gay marriage was legal in Australia. Now, gay marriage is a different act, like same-sex marriage is an amendment to the Marriage Act. But the fact that this group of people walk around saying that they are oppressed when they got the laws changed in stealth, and it's not so much specifically that they got the laws completely changed to what they want, because what's basically been left with the Sex Discrimination Act is this very muddled act. It's like, because it's obviously, it's the Sex Discrimination Act. How it functioned from its intention in 1984 until 2013 was it's where women's rights lived. Woman was completely understood to be an adult human female. I mean, that's what it said in the act. And then when they put gender identity in there, it muddled it so that it was like, okay, well, which one has more weight in the law in a discrimination thing? Can you discriminate on the basis of sex? Because sometimes you can discriminate on the basis of sex. For example, female-only spaces, like, we didn't have to get permission for female-only spaces before these, like, ever before, because the act was the exemption. Like, it was there to defend our right to do it. Then this happened, and it was like, well, in the eyes of the law, is which one has more weight, gender identity and sex? And it's not like for the last 11 years, the act has been working like honky-dory. The activists and the AHRC have been using it to intimidate women-only gyms and whatnot, like so many, and individual women as well in the workplace, intimidating them into submission. And it was just that, I don't know, was I in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the right time?
Well, from our perspective, it might be the right place at the right time.
As I said, it's this like innate stubbornness that I have when I know I'm right. And then beyond just knowing I'm right about the issue, I'm just like, no, I'm sorry. Shitty men destroyed the first thing I wanted to do with my life. This one's more important to me. You're not destroying this. I will fight until I win on this. And so I just was like, okay, we'll have to fight. I mean, that was definitely not part of the plan when we came up with the idea, because we didn't come up with this idea in response to this stuff. The app brought us into it. So, you know,
and it's been hugely expensive, hasn't it? And then like, and you know, you had to go to the UK to sort of, because you're so sort of silenced and stifled in Australia, like we are here in New Zealand. And you had to go to the UK where at least there were some platforms where people you could talk to.
Australian media literally would not give me the time of day all of last year, and knowing I was crowdfunding as well. And, you know, and that it was getting the issue out there is what I needed to be able to do. I would send emails sometimes every 2 weeks, every month, to all of the different, individual journalists, certain publications, everyone. I'm sure I'm just marked as spam for a lot of them at this point, because I was I was doing it so constantly until I was like, we're going to sink. If I can't get the word out there, I need to find something else to do. And so I contacted Andrew Gold, who does the Heretics podcast in the UK. Really, really like the podcast. And I'd said, like, oh, would you speak to me? And he was like, I would. He said, are you coming to the UK anytime soon? I'm like, why would I be coming to the UK? He said he'd made a promise to himself when he started his platform, like the podcast, that he'd only interview people in person. There was an aesthetic that he wanted. And I was like, that's fair enough. I get
okay.
Awful. I was like, that's fine. If I'm in the UK, I'll let you know. And I like walked away for a bit, and then I was like, hang on a second. If I can organize a few different things and make it worthwhile, why wouldn't I go to the UK? If that's what I have to do, if I have to leave my own country, to talk about the biggest court case in Australian modern history for women's rights, then that's what I'll have to do. And I think it's shameful on the Australian media. Then when the hearing happened that week, there was a few mainstream places that did report on it. I think like some of them did, there was a few that did actually an okay, fair job in the sense that they didn't completely like, you know, throw me under the like bus completely. They would try to make me like that I was the bad guy. But I just sort of figured that, you know what, most normal, like just people with two brain cells could be watching it going, hang on a second.
Yeah.
I think I could put two and two together here and go at least go and work out more. And a lot of people did because they contacted me. It was the ABC, our national broadcaster. They were the ones that were the most horrible to me, trying to really frame me as a harasser. And as I've said, like I literally would not talk about this person. I don't actually have any ill will towards him. He's just a him to me. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a character assessment.
Yeah.
Like I always say, you know, a man who claims to be a woman can't use a woman's only space for the exact same reason that my dad can't. And my dad's the man I trust more than any man in the whole world. But I still don't want to be in woman only spaces with him.
No.
And the woman standing next to me doesn't know she can trust him. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a woman only space is either woman only or it isn't. Like if a man is in there,
Yeah.
it's not a woman only space. And it's on that. It's one of the things that I think that some of us have fallen into the trap of trying to defend female-only spaces when that is not actually what is up for debate. Because these idiots aren't debating the need for female-only spaces; they just want to be in them.
Yeah. Well, my thing now, which I'm just sort of telling, basically putting it on the line, just being sort of quite brutal about it, is that women's spaces the control of women's spaces has now been handed to men, because not because if any man can say he's a woman and can come into them, who's got the control? You know, I mean, not all men will do that, but the choice is entirely theirs.
But with Tickle v. Giggle, when it was in the AHRC stage, when I could have settled it in conciliation, the grounds for settlement were let him in, let all men who claim to be women in, go to sex and gender education, which that's the part that always makes people go, ooh. And I'm like, no, it's this next part that is the most chilling. Moderate all content so that men who claim to be women aren't offended by it. So not only did they want access to the platform, they wanted to control what women spoke about on it. No, I'd close it down before I'd ever let that happen. There's no point.
Moderate the content. Why is this a constant thing going on that somehow they're not to be offended in any way? Constant, you know. Like
with Tickle v. Giggle case, which was like one of the arguments they had was that I treat trans women different to cis women.
Oh, really?
There's a really big reason for that. But second of all, it's like they were actually wanting me to treat trans women different to cis women, to use their language. So they would want me to, like, there's no woman who asked me to moderate the content so that they were not offended. Nor was there any woman who said, can you please just go by what my birth certificate says?
Yeah.
My birth certificate. No one. That is treating trans women different to cis women. And it is again, giving them privileges that other women don't have. Like if a woman came to me and said, can you please moderate all this content so that I'm not offended? I would say, no, maybe this is not the platform for you.
Yeah. But it's all the other way around now. It's like we have to change our whole behaviors, our language, and everything to accommodate these men who say that they're women.
Exactly. And so it was just no, like absolutely no way. Like it's like you rendered the point of a female-only platform useless. I wanted it to be, and when it relaunches, it will be this place where women can go. It's a refuge from all of the other online places have where you can just connect with women all around the world. And you know what, sometimes there's certain topics, sometimes it's really nice to have discussions where it's just women. Like whenever there would be political discussions on Giggle Talk, which was like the female-only Twitter that we had, what was so cool about it is that there was no like mansplaining or anything, and women would be like so much more confident in expressing like just, oh, this is what I think should happen for this political situation. And like, there was just a confidence that I think that sometimes we don't have in other situations. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we're exercising our voice in this women's only environment, and when we articulate ourselves, we get confident with it, and then we take that into the rest of the world.
Yeah. Sal, I went to an all-girls school, and I noticed that it's just a generalization. It's not everything, but I do notice that in that environment, I think that the women end up being a bit different than the woman who goes to the co-ed schools. The young woman come out of it a bit different. Sometimes you come out into the world, and of course you get a bit of a shock when you go into the workforce and you find that what they're like. I mean, and I'm not saying they're awful or anything like that, but they're just men, and they behave differently and stuff like that. You can get a bit of a shock, but you still come out of that school, of an all-girls school, I think, and I say just generally speaking, a bit different than a co-ed school.
I've read a lot about this because I have a little girl. She's about to be 2, and where am I going to send her to school? Potentially homeschool. I'm petrified to send her out to school.
Yeah.
About any of this stuff, but no, I want her to go to an all-girls school. I've read a lot about it, and it is apparent. The data is that girls who go to all-girls schools, what they learn is to raise their hand more, express their opinion like this, or their ideas. And I think that that's a great foundation. If I could redo my education, I've told my mum and dad, I'm like, I would have gone. There's a girls' school here. Like, I would have gone to school.
I also had 3 brothers, so like, so you learned, you get brothers help you to be robust and help you sort of think, oh, bugger the boys,
Teenage years. No, I've read lots about it. Like, single sex education is actually better for both sexes. Boys learn better when it's just a boy environment as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's funny because I'd heard something different a long time ago, but I heard something different. So that's interesting. That's the new studies. Yeah.
We can find research to suit different things. And I went to a co-ed school, and it was fine. But if I'd had the choice, so knowing what I know now, I would have gone to an all-girls school.
Yeah.
So,
and do you find are you finding, just talking about women getting a bit bolshier and stuff like that, are you finding that there's now becoming a bit more of a gloves off sort of discourse amongst women about this? Because I'm looking at how you're tweeting now compared to sort of a little while ago, how J.K. Rowling's tweeting now compared to a little while ago, and it's changing.
Yeah, there is a journey that happens with not only with peaking, but also with your patience with this. And I don't have any politeness left in me to gender ideologues. I've used it because it hasn't worked.
That's right. Nothing that has not worked. Yeah,
it hasn't worked. And so all of my respect and politeness is reserved for the women also fighting with me, and the men who are fighting with us as well.
Yeah.
So that's where all of my goodwill goes to. I don't have it for the other side, because I know that there might be some women who, if they're listening to this, and they might only be 6 months or a year on their journey with this, and so they might still have that. And cool, that's fun. I'm not going to tell anyone how to fight this stuff. We're all throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. But we all start at the beginning being like, okay, I'll be really, really polite. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I want to be kind, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to the point eventually where you're like, there is no such thing as trans. This thing is completely made up. And if you don't believe me, think of it this way. What is more likely? That there are some men who are actually women in some true trans kind of a way, and how do we know who they are?
Yeah.
Or that the whole thing is nonsense. Which one is more likely?
Yeah.
Most likely all nonsense. There's not a single man on this who is actually a woman. And if we try to give any sort of consideration for even one of these men who claim to be women, that's how we got here. It would be insanity to try and do the same thing again and expect a different result from it. What we actually have to reestablish now is like social categories based on truth, laws based on truth, and then get the state out of people's identity and let people just have your self-expression. That's fine, but it's really no
absolutely the state should not be trying to define identities.
No, not at all. Like, because sexual orientation, for example, isn't an identity, it's a sexual orientation. So we're never talking about taking away any of those rights. Like, they're sex-based rights, we want to protect those, they come under the banner. It's just this gender identity is a completely made up nonsense term that if you start to do the research of it, you will see just where it actually comes from are some very unsavory people who should not have any sort of role in civilized.
There's no limits to it. That's the other thing. There's no limits to it. You know, it can, what the law might decide they define it as this year, and in 2 years' time it'll be like 20 times more definitions you got to add to it, or descriptions.
I think of that all the time, because I'm like, you know, here we are fighting for our sex-based rights, but actually even the majority of people who sit under this trans umbrella also rely on their sex-based rights. Like, women who think of themselves as men use their sex-based rights to compete in sport. That's because they still compete in women's teams. A lot of, like, then for like any maternity type things, that's all under a woman's sex-based rights legislation. Then you've got like the non-binaries. Well, again, which spaces are they using? Like bathrooms, change rooms, which sport are they doing? They are relying on their sex-based rights. Then you've got all those neo-genders, like the cat genders or the astro-genders or whatever. Again, their rights are protected on the basis of their sex, because you cannot structure society around catering to cat genders in any meaningful way. So the only people who don't want there to be sex-based rights are the men who claim to be women, because without sex-based rights, they get the privileges to go into female spaces in sport on the basis of gender.
Well, they do. They have, you know, as I said, men have now been handed control of women's spaces.
Yeah.
And that's the brutal truth of it. You know, women no longer have control of their space, of our spaces.
I think that's one of the craziest things about gender ideology is it's just the same old-fashioned sexism. Like, nothing new about it. Even like the females in gender ideology are the forgotten ones. Like, they're not getting any benefits from this. The men, it's all just what the men can get from it. They're the ones that are listened to. Like, it's just same circus, different clowns.
I think that perhaps we're getting into a slightly new phase now. Like we've done collected information. We've tried to talk about it. We've tried to meet with politicians. We've tried to, you know, present these really good cases and everything like that, and just got nowhere all the time. And we've done everything. And I get the feeling now that we're reaching a stage where we're going to find another gear in some sort. I'm not saying that not to do all the stuff we've done in the past, collecting information and trying to meet and discuss, but we've got to find this other gear as well. And I think that certainly we've got to encourage people, I think, now to start meeting in person. Yes. And that's why that leads me wonderfully into the Women's Rights Party. Co-arrange, they've co-coordinated with other political parties and groups to bring you over here and to have your speaking tour around New Zealand. And I'll put the link to that underneath as well.
I'm so excited. I mean, I leave on Wednesday. I'm very, very excited.
Right, and it's Auckland, then New Plymouth, and of course New Plymouth, you know, venue cancelled. I mean, the Citizens Advice Bureau, for goodness sakes, you know.
New Plymouth is where my dad is from. Like, he's lived in Australia now. It's 2024. Mum and dad got married in 1980. Dad arrived here in 78, I think 77 or 78. So that's a lot. Like, it's been like 46 years since Dad.
So,
and I think he's been back there like 5 times.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, it's where dad was from. And I was like, Dad, guess what? The first place to catch.
it was your old stomping ground. Yeah. So
It's like, guys, you're not going to stop us from speaking. Like, if worse comes to worse, we're all going to my nana's house.
does your nana know this? Oh, brilliant. But anyway, we're just going to look so forward to sort of actually meeting you in person, hearing you talk in person. As I said, this in-person thing, we've got to start, I think, encouraging now people to get together in person. I mean, online's great. We wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for
like online is where we have reach to everyone around the world, and it connects us all. It's where we can express and all our ideas and iron things out and grow together. Because, you know, as I was saying before, like, you know, we do start from this place of like all politeness and we want to be kind to hard line, not going to give an inch. Sorry, boys, like the jig is up.
Yeah.
And online is very, very important. I'm sure there's people going to be that accuse us of being radicalized. You can't get radicalized into acknowledging the reality of biological sex. That's not what being radicalized is. I'm confident in the reality and truth of it. But yeah, it's doing things in person and, you know, trying to engage the people who need to hear it. Because, you know, with politicians, they have so many different issues that they have to think about. And so they're not as immersed just by the nature of their job. They're not as immersed in this one issue as we are. And so we've got to be able to give them a crash course in what we learn in like a year or 5 years or something in essentially 20 minutes and make them realize it.
Because I've come to realize that the neo rainbow lobby groups have been cozying up to them for a long time. Long time.
And because, you know, there's money on their side because it's this pharmaceutical and whatnot. There's no money in giving women our rights.
No. So anyway, that's probably about a good place. I promised you I'd only keep you for an hour. Good place to wrap it up. But anyway, I'll put all the details of Salls speaking to her in the description below. And she's in Auckland, New Plymouth, Wellington, and Christchurch. And do come along. As I said, this in-person thing is just going to be so important, and it's just where you'll meet other people.
And I will say this one thing: when people come along, because, you know, so many women are anonymous on Twitter, and so like but I'm not, and so that's the difference. But when women say their actual Twitter names to me, I'm like, oh, I know who you are. I always say, like, at events we should wear like name tags with our Twitter handle on it, because I'd be like, oh my god, I love your tweets.
And you do get surprised how many people actually sort of know you online and stuff like that, you know. And it's great to sort of go to some place, because I've experienced that myself with my blog, and I go somewhere and people have come up to me and said, oh, I'm so and so, I subscribe to your blog, and it's great, you know. It's great.
It's really, really cool. So no, I'm so excited to meet everybody and just spend some time in New Zealand. Let's get women's rights back, because you guys, I mean, I thought like 2 years ago you guys were in as bad a position as we are. You guys at least have some political pushback that you can work with.
Do we?
A little bit. You've got a political party that at least.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying. Yes, we have New Zealand First in the coalition, and they are sort of like, they're actually doing something, as like the other two parties, a National and ACT, I think would do nothing without women's rights, without New Zealand First.
Every little bit helps. Like, everything. We don't have a political party yet that has taken this up, although hopefully the Liberals will. I mean, that's the one that we want to. I mean, is it First Nations? I think Pauline Hanson's political party has done a bit, but
I
want the Liberals to do it. I mean, it would be great if they did it, but they're not going to. I think they are the band that's going to play as the Titanic sinks.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like getting thrown a few crumbs, you know.
I know.
To hell with,
That's why I always say, like, I would never ever tell another woman how to sort of do her activism in this space, because I think we're all just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. And there might be someone who's like, I really don't like your approach, but if it's the one that works, I will be the first to congratulate her. Like, I just have no judgment with it. I'm like, just whatever. We are pushing everything at this, because it's not like, it's just not a time to, I don't think, to worry about I don't think it's a time to worry about optics.
No, that's a good way of putting it, because I mean, just in recent times, I've just sort of come out and said that, I'm collaborating with not quite whoever, but, almost just anyone. And, like the terrible Christian groups, everyone's like, oh, gasp, Christian groups. But, the item-specific collaboration.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
How did women get the vote? Is they literally aligned, like they worked with all different men.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was you have to, and like that's how also like world wars ended. You just have to work with you've got to work with what you've got.
That's right. Yeah.
And
You form alliances.
I'm not purity politics. Like I like that I really like the maturity of dealing with someone and being like, you know what, on this, we would be on the opposite sides of the aisle, but on this, we can work together and we can have conversations.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I think that that's much better than this horrible polarized world that we have. And if women could play a role in showing the world that actually we can all work together on different issues and get things done, that's a better lesson for everyone to learn than to keep this political tribalism going.
Yes, so everybody come along to these talks, because everyone is welcome. Everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Sal, it's been great talking. I'll catch up with you when you come to New Zealand.